Hello, I'm Mopley123, and these are my Puzzle and Dragons tutorials. I decided to start this new channel because sometimes new beginning players, when they're starting out getting into higher level descents and stuff, you need to see exactly how to do a dungeon, exact stats of monsters, who exactly you're going to verse, the best way to fight them, best skills to use, best leader skills, best leads in general, if you need to use a spike team, resolve team, etc., things like that. So I decided to make this because when you're getting into higher level dungeons, you're going to need those monsters if you're going to do higher dungeons. If you're going to want to start to get into mythical or eventually get up into Legend Plus and things along that on those lines. Um, so the best place to start would definitely be Divine Queen of Darkness, Divine Queen Sleepless Castle, or aka Hera Descended. Hera is probably one of your number one assets you're going to need because if you don't have a Hades, eventually you're going to start needing gravities, which gravity will take away a certain percentage of their health, be it 20, 10, 30, 35, and now looking at new Hera and Zeus, 45, but that's something to come later. But a 30% gravity can be very helpful because if you're versing a monster with, say, 2 million, 3 million health, taking them down to about maybe 25, 2.5 million or 2 million can be very helpful because it lowers their health by a great amount and has you do less damage to them, so you can kill them much faster. So with Hera Descended, it's not the hardest dungeon. It's by far the easiest descend because it's a legend difficulty in the first place, and it's a normal dungeon, so you're not going to run into any resurrections or 1 million damage multi-hits if you're talking about the Thursday dungeon. So I guess we'll just jump right into this and start with Hera Descended and what the best way is to get past this dungeon and get yourself your first Hera. Okay, once you start into Hera Descended, the first 1 through 4 floors, you're going to run into only 3 types of monsters. You're either going to run into a random attribute Devil, Demon, or Knight. Now, these won't be too hard. Their health is pretty low, they do relatively low attack, and you should be able to get through these first few floors with pretty good ease. The only hard part about this is if you run into a few monsters on the same cooldown, the only problem is that added amount of damage could ultimately kill you if you have low health. If you have, say, less than 15 to 13,000 health, it's possible that if you run into 3 demons or 3 knights that they could kill you, and, well, we don't really want that. So first off, the easiest one you're going to fight is a random attribute Devil. Now these have about 20,000 health. It can kind of range from maybe 19 to 21,000 depending on which attribute. They do about 3,500 damage and their defense is about 1,400. Now the defense is kind of insignificant because it's a small amount. You can get over that amount of damage pretty easily. Now every turn they're going to attack. They've got 1 turn counter, so that can be the only hard part is that you'll be taking damage every turn if you run into a few of these. Now next up, you're going to run into a random attribute, Demon. Now demons are the, well, evolved version of devils, and again, they're going to be a random attribute. I just put fire because it was the easiest one to put, but they're going to be a random attribute. Their HP is about 4,500. It can range, kind of differ depending on what attribute you run into. Their attack is going to be about 5,500, and their defense is going to be about 2,200. Now, their cooldown is they're going to be attacking every 2 turns, so it's not too bad. It's possible to stall on these pretty easily because you can take a hit, you can save your hard orbs, heal back, or if you're using an Odin, you can just use auto heals and just stay on that floor for a while. Next up, you're going to run into a random Knight. Now, Knights are a bit stronger. They have 67,000 health, so it's getting into a little bit of the higher numbers. It's going to, using, say, an Odin team, it's going to take a few hits without any damage multipliers, but if you're using some kind of like Chinese god or maybe Kirin, Yumasachi, Yamasachi, you could get through past them pretty easily. They're going to be doing about 6,500 damage per turn, so they're pretty easy to stall on, especially if you're using an Odin, because you'll just really be taking 500 because you can heal back 6,000 every turn because of its auto heals. And their defense is around 900, so it's low defense, pretty insignificant. You can break that pretty easily and do damage to them. And, and they're going to be attacking every 3 turns, my mistake. Every 3 turns they're going to be hitting you. So easy to stall on, high cooldown, low damage compared to every other monster, so you could stall on these guys pretty easily. Now, this is going to be, you're going to be fighting these monsters for 4 floors straight. This is pretty easy, get through them. Once you get to 4, 5, and above, it starts getting a little different. You'll run into specific Greek, or Greco-Roman monsters, my mistake. You'll be running into them, and damage gets a little higher, health gets a little higher, and that's when it gets a little bit harder. But for the first 4 floors, it's going to be pretty easy, and you should be able to get past them with ease. Once you get past floors 1 through 4, things are gonna start changing a little. You're not gonna be running into random assortments of demons, devils, and knights, and you're gonna start running into set monsters with specific stats, and each time you do this dungeon, you're guaranteed to fight this every time. So starting off, you're gonna run into the light Greco-Roman god, Venus. Now, Venus is when things start changing, because you're gonna get into more health, more damage, and things along those lines. She is probably considered the easiest one out of all these because she has the lowest cooldown, the lowest health, and the lowest attack compared to all the other things in floors 6 and above. Now her HP is around 430,000, not too much. You could get past that. You could one-shot her with a Lucifer if you've got one. Her attack is around 56,000, 5,600, my mistake, which isn't too bad. You can get past that. You can heal back that every time if you need to. Save hard orbs. If you've got any auto heals, you could probably recover a decent amount of that every time. Her defense is about 1,200. Now, 1,200 again is insignificant. You can break that easily. Get past that, and you'll be able to do damage with her without only having to do 1 damage or so. Now, her only hard part is her cooldown of 1 turn. So every turn you're going to be taking damage from her because she has the lowest, well, not the lowest cooldown, well, the lowest cooldown out of the floors 5 through 10. So you're going to be taking damage every turn. So now you're going to be taking around 5,600 damage. Now that's not anything if you're, say, using an Odin, double Odin team, maybe an Odin and a DJ. In each turn you could easily heal back with just the auto heals, 80% resisted of 5,600 damage. So you're going to be able to get past her pretty quickly. If you're using a spike team, you're probably going to want to kill her relatively quickly, because if you're taking 5,600 damage a turn, if you have low health, or even if you've, say, got maybe 17,000 health, if you don't heal back or you make a mistake, she could kill you in 2, 3, maybe 4 turns. So with Venus, you're going to want to get past her relatively quickly. Stall on her if you've got a resist team, or just kill her as quickly as possible if you're using a spike. And now, after Venus, we'll move on to Minerva, which is when things start getting a little more difficult. Now, next up, you're going to be fighting Minerva. Minerva is the fire Greco-Roman god, and after this, commentary is probably going to be getting less and less because it's going to get kind of repetitive because things are pretty similar. Now, she's a little harder than Venus because she's got higher health, around 515,000, higher attack, give or take 14,000, and she's going to be doing that every 3 turns. So she does have a higher counter, but she does much higher damage, about 3 times higher. So if you're using a spike team, you're probably going to want to get past her pretty quickly because she has a good amount of damage, and she's going to be able to do a lot of damage to you each turn. If you don't have that much health, and if you don't even have enough health to take this hit, you're going to want to kill her pretty quickly. Even if you do have enough health, it is possible you could recover that back because you have a good amount of turns to do it, but just be careful if you do, because it's very possible you could die. If using a resolve team or possibly a resist team with like an Odin or a Neptune or something like that, you could probably just stall on her for a while because you'll be able to heal back with auto heals or just matching a few hard orbs, and you'll be able to stall on her pretty easily and get your skills up and stuff. Now, she's definitely harder than Venus because she does have higher attack with a higher cooldown, so it's possible to heal back every couple turns. But just be careful on her because it's very possible to die if you aren't careful and if you don't watch your health. Coming up onto floor 7, you're going to run into Ceres. Now, Ceres is the wood Greco-Roman god, and she's actually quite similar to the previous floor of Minerva. She's actually going to have the exact same amount of health, around 515,000, but she is going to do less attack, around 10,000, maybe closer to around 11,000. Her defense, same as Minerva, it's insignificant. You can break that easily and actually do some damage to her. The only real difference between Ceres and Minerva is that she does have lower attack, but in conjunction, she does have a lower cooldown. She'll be attacking every 2 turns instead of every 3 turns, so you will be taking more total damage every couple turns. Now, if you're using a spike team, such as Kirin, Yumasachi, Yamasachi, any of the other Chinese gods, things like that, you're probably going to want to get past her pretty quickly. Because although she does do 10,000 damage, which isn't an incredible amount, it's not the easiest to stall back 11,000 damage every turn. If you're willing, every 2 turns, my bad. If you're willing to do that, then you can go ahead and stall for skills to get ready for Neptune up ahead, but it's the best idea to probably sweep her pretty quickly. If you're using a resolve team or a resist team, such as Odin or possibly an Orochi, you're probably going to be able to stall on her for quite a while and just slowly grind her health down while you get your skills up, use skills on her, and just heal back every couple turns, do auto heals, or maybe if you're using an Amaterasu as a leader and an Orochi, you'll be able to heal back to around 50% health to be able to tank another hit and just continue the process. So overall, it's possible if you want to kill her pretty quickly, but it is possible to stall on her if using the correct team. On to floor 8, you're going to be versing Neptune. Now, Neptune is when things start changing a little bit. He is the water Greco-Roman god. He's going to have low health. He's going to have 44,000 health. He's going to attack pretty high for about 18,000 every 4 turns. But his only difference is he has a very high amount of defense. He's got 72,000 defense. And as it says there, if you're unable to break this defense, you're going to have to bring a defense breaker or a poison skill in order to get his health down. Because both of those defense breaker will get rid of his defense for a few turns, and the poison skill will ignore his defense and just slowly grind down his health. Now, you can stall on him. He doesn't do that high of damage. You're probably going to need a resist or two if you're going to want to stall on him and tank a few hits from him. Now, if you want to, you can slowly grind down 44,000 health, which will probably take a few days or maybe a week or so, so that's probably not recommended. If you're using a spike team, you'll probably be able to break that pretty easily. But if you're using a resist team, you're going to have to bring a defense or poison skill with you, because most likely nothing on your team is going to be able to do more than that unless you can get about 300 combos a turn. So make sure to bring a defense breaker or poison skill. I do have a video later in the dungeon of that happening, so you can watch that and show exactly what you need to do. Now, if you're moving on to floor 9, you obviously somehow made your way past Neptune and broke his massive defense. On to floor 9 is you're going to be versing Hades. Hades has about 600,000 health, so he's a little higher than the few floors before him. He does very high attack, though. He does about 82,000 health for every 6 turns. Now, that's going to be very high, very hard to tank with almost any team. Even with some high HP Lucifer team, it's going to be very hard to get that amount of health. If you're using maybe some super high physical team, you can tank that every turn, but it's probably not recommended. If you're using a spike team, it's a pretty good idea to stall a few turns, maybe get him down to a 2 or maybe 3 turn counter, and then kill him to make sure your skills are up for Hera coming up next. If you're using a resist team, it is possible to lower his damage down to something survivable and still be able to heal back every turn, so you can tank that every 6 turns, get your skills up, and just slowly grind him down until he finally dies. So overall, you're probably going to want to get past Hades pretty quickly. He does very high damage, pretty high cooldown compared to everyone else, but it's still not the best idea to stay on him for very long. Somebody cue the boss music, because if you've made it this far, you've made it to the Divine Queen herself, Hera. Hera is most likely going to be one of the strongest things you've ever fought in any of the other normal or possibly technical dungeons before, unless you've done something like Starlight Sanctuary, or maybe any of the other higher technical dungeons. Now, she's going to have around 2.5 million health, which is going to be very hard to do with any possible simple teams you have, unless you have a high spike like Kirin, Yumasachi, Yamasachi, or Ra. She's going to be doing about 12,000 damage every turn, so that's going to be very hard to tank, heal back every turn. So be careful with that, make sure you kill her pretty quickly. Her defense is very insignificant, 372. We easily get past that with almost any team. Now, if you're using a spike team, such as Kirin or Yumasachi and Yamasachi, you're most likely going to want to bring some kind of king slime, such as a baddie or maybe a bubbly or something like that. So you can get a very massive spike at the end, getting up to around 75, maybe 100 times damage, so you can one-shot her and make sure she doesn't kill you quickly. If you're using a resolve team or a resist team, you should be able to easily tank that hit and stall back if you're using something like an Odin and a DJ. Now, that's going to resist it greatly. You're going to be able to heal that back every turn and just make sure you keep grinding your health back and make sure you just keep matching orbs, healing every turn, and making sure that your health stays high and you're able to resist that. Now, overall, Hera is going to be quite a hard monster to fight for low-level people. So make sure you come in bringing the right team, possibly with gravities or a high poison just to do some extra damage. Because if you've got a 20, even 30% gravity, that's going to speed this up very quickly. And even Hera herself can be used to farm Heras, kind of ironically. So overall, take out Hera pretty quickly if you're using a spike. Bring something to do some massive damage at the end so you can one-shot her, or if you're using a resolve team, you can just heal back every turn and you'll be fine. And eventually you'll be able to kill her and get your first Hera, and probably one of the first monsters that you'll ever get that will evolve into an 8-star eventually. Now, as a low-level person around rank 70 or so, doing Hera for the first time, you're going to want to make a pretty easy team, which will make this dungeon very easy to get by. This is probably one of the easiest teams. It's an Odin and DJ resist team. Now, DJ stands for Drawn Joker, just a short conjunction. Now, Odin will give you an 80% damage reduction at full health. And DJ will give you 50% reduction for dark and water. So when you're at full health and you're versing something either dark or water type, you're going to give them a very great reduction and you're going to take very low damage from them. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind, when using Odin, you're going to have to make sure he is fully awoken. If he's not fully awoken and fully evolved, you're not going to give all those auto heals. Now, what auto heals do is every turn, as long as you match one set of orbs, you're going to get 2,000 you're going to get 2,000 points of health healed on that turn, because he has 4 auto heals, each one heals 500 health. So make sure he's fully awoken. Now, DJ can easily be subbed out for Abyss Neptune, which will give the same reduction, except you'll have a poison skill instead of an orb changer, and it'll give a little bit more reduction. Now, Chaos Devil Dragon is also another leader you could use, because it'll give 50% reduction for dark types only, which is really the only thing you need. Now, for your first sub, you're going to need something to take care of Neptune. The one I set, or the one that's shown on the top there, is a top droid dragon. What the top droid dragon will do is for one turn, he will make one monster have 0 defense. So instead of Neptune having 72,000 defense, he'll have 0 defense for one turn, which in conjunction is only about 45,000 health. And that can easily be taken out with Odin, and you can just get past Neptune with pretty good ease. Now, if you don't have a top droid dragon, you can easily just use a machine golem or something else with a lower defense reduction. Now, just keep in mind, it'll probably take longer to kill Neptune, because you're going to have to stall that skill back and make sure you have Odin, which will do the most damage. If you don't have a defense reduction, you can easily just use a poison skill, which poison ignores enemy defense and will just take away their health. Now, it's possible to use a Lilith, just keep in mind, it's going to take a while because Lilith doesn't do very much damage in her poison skill. If you have a Neptune and you're using him as an Abyss Neptune, you can easily just ignore this space and just use his poison skill and have something else in this sub, because that'll take him out pretty quickly. For the next sub, an Echidna can be very helpful, because what Echidna will do, it'll give a 3-turn delay for all monsters. Now, what this will do, let's say a monster has a 3-turn counter. For when you use her delay, it'll turn that into a 6-turn counter, so that way you can stall, heal back, and then if you make a mistake, don't heal back, something like that, you'll be able to do that, use her skill, and then heal back, kill it, or do whatever you need to do. Up next is a Lightning Holy Dragon. What he does, his skill will give you 25,000 damage on all monsters, and this will be in light damage. You don't have to specifically use a Lightning Holy Dragon, but anything with a high damage nuke like that will be very helpful for floors 1 through 4, where those things will be kind of painful, and that high damage on all monsters will be very helpful to get by. Now, for the 5th sub is a Keeper of Rainbow. Now, the reason he's here is for 2 reasons, really. One is for health, and the other is for a skill. I believe it's 50% damage reduction for 3 turns. Now, this can be helpful if you're about to take hits from something that'll do too much damage, and you won't be able to get past that without dying, or you won't be able to heal back in time. Now, for your friend leader, again, is Odin. Now, one thing about this dungeon is you're going to have about 6,000 to 8,000 health guaranteed. You're going to need to have that so you can tank every single hit, and you're going to have at least 1500 auto heal. 1500 points of auto heal, which would be 3 of those. So Odin will give 4 if he's fully awoken. You're fine with the auto heals there. Now, getting past this dungeon isn't too hard. For floors 1 through 4, since they're all practically the same, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to kill any synced monsters, meaning if they're on the same counter, you're going to have to kill them pretty quickly because you're going to want them out of the picture. Now for floors 1 through 4, just grind away their health, get skills up, use whatever skills you have, and whatnot. Now once you get to floor 5, as long as you match 1 set of orbs for every turn, you'll be perfectly fine. Because you'll be able to just just be able to grind down their health, you'll heal back whatever damage they're doing to you with just the auto heals, and you'll be perfectly fine. Use whatever skills you have. If you screw up, if maybe you miss matching an orb, just use Echidna or use your Keeper of Rainbow and stuff like that. Slowly grind their health down. Use Grodin's skill or Odin, because that will do about 50,000 damage, which can be pretty high on these relatively low health monsters. Use your Lightning Holy Dragon, whatever nuke you have, and you'll just be able to get past them. Now this will be same for floors 5, 6, and 7. That will be all very similar. Now once you get to floor 8, you're going to want to use your Defense Breaker or Poison if you're going to want to take out Neptune. So Neptune will be a little painful. Just use that skill, use Grodin's skill. If you don't have a 100% damage reduction, you're going to have to grind his health down a little bit, stall for your defense reduction, or if you're using poison, just slowly let the poison grind down his health and you'll be fine. Floors 9 and 10, same thing as the earlier floors. Just grind down their health, make sure you match at least 1 set of orbs, use whatever skills you have on them, get their health down, and then once you get to floor 10 and kill Hera, you'll have your first Hera. Now I do have a video of me doing this dungeon with a team similar to this. Some things are a little higher evolved, and I'm using a couple different leaders, but just know that they don't have to be max evolved. You just have to be in a certain around 6.5 thousand HP threshold, and you're going to have your auto heals, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so I decided not to show the entire run. One, because I didn't have enough space on my phone to record the whole thing, and two, it probably would have added another 30 minutes or so, even at the 8 times speed. So decided to just shorten that. Well, as you can see at Venus, all you have to do is just keep matching orbs and grinding their health down. That's the same thing throughout. The only thing that's different is when you get to Neptune, which I do have a video of showing how to break his defense, just using the skill, and just popping Odin real fast just to take him out very quickly. So now that was Hera descended through a simple to build resist team, which will take a while, but not very good for farming. Now this is the team I use to farm Hera's. It's a double Kieran team. So what will happen is at 5 you'll get 5 times attack when matching light, wood, fire, and water all at the same time. Now, for Kieran, her skill is a 20% gravity, so it'll reduce enemy health by 20%. Up next, I have my Shining Lance wielder, Odin. For his auto heals, his skill is Gungnir. He'll do a 50 times attack, and you'll heal back, I believe, 50% of that. Next, I have War God of Metal, Takminikata. And what Takminikata does is she's a physical, and she'll enhance fire and light orbs, which can be very helpful. Next up is Apollo. He changes dark and heal orbs to light, which are the two orbs that Kieran teams don't need to activate the multiplier. Next is King Bubbly. He'll give a three times attack to physicals. So everyone on my team but Odin is a physical. So in conjunction with that 25 times attack from two 5 times attack Kieran leaders, it'll give an extra 3 times, which will bump that up to 75 times attack, which is a very high spike for the end of a dungeon. So basically, floors 1 through 4, you're just going to want to sweep through everything. Just kill them as fast as possible. If you see a few turns to stall, might as well, just to get your skills up in case you screw up somewhere. Floors 5, sweep through Venus, kill her pretty quickly. Floor 6 and 7, 8, all of them, including Neptune, you're just going to want to sweep him, make sure he's gone. When you get to Hades, you can easily just stall a few turns if you want to. I mean, it's definitely not hard. And you can just stall some turns and make sure you have all your skills up for Hera. Once you get to Hera, just activate all your skills, use your double gravity to take down some of her health, use Apollo to get a lot of light orbs on the board, use your Takminikata to plus fire and light, and then use King Bubbly for a massive spike, and you'll just be able to sweep straight through her. I have a video of this, and I'm going to sign off after this, so just watch this video, and that'll be the end of this. I hope this helped, and please give me any feedback on any way I can improve, and I hope these videos help, and I plan to make more in the future. Thank you.